Hello, and welcome back aboard the Good Airship Hopium. I'm your host and captain, Snappydude, and as always, I hope you are having a fantastic day. Today's video is going to be a top 5 list where I go over what I think the devs should prioritize going forward to try to revitalize Gigantic. I've thought about this video a lot over the last week, and I was trying to come up with a way to do it that I had an original idea. And it was very ranty, and I didn't like that. And I wanted to do something more positive and more, just positive, really. And this is basically what I came down to. Again, this is my list. This is my opinions. You're probably going to disagree with all of them. But hey, if you do, just leave comments below. I'm sure you will anyway, and tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me what you think. Go for it. Just go down, tell me what you think should be. What do you think the #1 priority of the devs right now should be? Number 5. The number 5 priority I think of the devs needs to be ranked. As of right now, I haven't seen that many issues with ranked. I mean, it's basically just Clash mode with a different matchmaking thing. But, the biggest issue right now with ranked is the 5 stacks, and that does need to be cleaned up. But just out of personal experience, I played several ranked games last weekend. Waiting in the lobby for a match for 10 minutes, just to find a match, to queue into a match, and then that match didn't actually count as a ranked match. For whatever reason, it would just dump me into public Clash matches that happened 2 different times. That's not a fun experience. It's hard enough to get into a ranked match with the low player count we have. I don't want to be thrown into a Clash match. I just don't. Like, that's just, it's not a good feeling. It's not. The fact is, ranked is a very popular game type in a lot of games. And the reason for that is because it kind of gives people who want to do something a little bit more serious, who really want to try and focus on the game. They don't just want to mess around. They want to get better at the game. They want to see how good they are, how they stack up against their friends, that type of stuff. It gives those people a place to play that isn't a public lobby where somebody might be doing something dumb, like spending the whole match just trying to cliff people for fun. And because of that, it is a very popular game type. I don't think it will probably ever be the most popular game type in Gigantic, but I do think it needs to be worked on. It's a public game type. It is something you matchmake into, so it is very accessible to everyone, and I think it needs to be worked on. Number 4. Number 4 is what I'm going to address as UI issues. This is kind of a sticky one. It probably covers maybe too many things. Maybe it kind of bleeds into some of the other choices I have on this list. But UI issues to me are anything that is found in a menu, or any errors or glitches you get that don't exist, that just exist on the menus or when you're navigating menus. Things like, I don't know, the end of match screen never popping up at the end of a game. Or things like not being able to get into matchmaking sometimes when you get back to the lobby for whatever reason. And so you have to restart the whole client just to get matchmaking working again. The letter grading system, not working since launch, still not working. I haven't even heard them say anything about ever fixing it, so who knows. Custom character builds just being lost. There's another one. Things like this, anything that is sort of out in the menus, this type of stuff, the menu, I was going to say originally that it was the first thing players encounter when they get into the game, but I forgot you have that tutorial. But on an average day, when you have completed the tutorial, the first thing you're going to run into is the menus. And if you want to do something as simple as check on the game that you played last night before you got off, and you can only scroll back like 2 matches on match history before it just glitches out and won't show you any more matches, that's a problem. That's such a simple little thing that should be fixed. But again, UI issues, for the most part, are not game-breaking. A lot of these things I'm talking about aren't game-breaking. They aren't experience-breaking. They're just little annoyances, but they are things that should be cleaned up. The only reason this goes above ranked for me is because I haven't ran into that many issues in ranked. Really, ranked is just another form of matchmaking. I haven't played enough of it to know how I feel about going up and down in ranks and how that works. So this bothers me more than that, and it is something that will bother everybody, even people that don't bother to play ranked are gonna run into some of these UI issues, and I think they are something that needs to be addressed. And to be fair to the devs, they have addressed a great deal of them. I believe they said they fixed the custom character builds resetting. I believe they said they fixed that in the last patch, so hopefully that's gone. But this is just it's just something. Like I said, this is the first thing you're gonna see when you load up the game every day. You shouldn't have to fight menus. And but otherwise, it's not the worst. Like, it's not terrible. So it's number 4. Number 3 is kind of going to be controversial. It's probably the one that a lot of people are going to say, why did you even put that on your list? Because this is the airship hopium, and sometimes I just have to say shit. Because it's what I want, you know? In an ideal world where I get to pick what the devs prioritize, number 3 is new content. And I know it's a pipe dream. I know it's something we will probably never get, but I sure hope we do, and I sure hope they have some cool stuff in store for us for ranked. But new content is something that I think should be prioritized, and I put it up at number 3. And I'm going to discuss why 1 and 2 beat this. I am, when we get to 1 and 2. And there's a reason 1 and 2 beat it. But if 1 and 2 weren't issues, this would be number 1 on my list. New content is the best way to advertise the game. Every time a game puts out a battle pass, or new skins, or new content, old players come back to check it out. News and media sites do coverage and do articles on them. Streamers and content creators do videos on them. New content is such a great way to get people back. I'm not saying we need anything big. I'm not saying we need new characters. Javish. Cough, Javish. I would love new characters, but I don't even think that's reasonable. I think you can do something small, just like recolors of old skins. Maybe some new skins. Some new skins would be great, but recolors of old skins. Reward players with fancy new versions of old skins. That's something simple. Emotes are relatively low effort things that would just require you to have an artist there to fucking just make up some new emotes. New titles require even less work than emotes. Things like that are relatively low investment, but they're simple things, you know? Add one every now and then, and it just shows the community that you're working on the game, that you're adding new content, and it can make somebody come back if they're interested. Things like that are exciting. I don't know. It just seems like such a small... You can do such small things, and they really do matter. I know I've logged onto games for the dumbest shit in the past, like, oh, here's a new title that's only available for, let's say, this week in America, 4th of July. Why not put a title out there for anybody who plays over this 4th of July weekend? If you play over this 4th of July weekend, you can unlock the Firecracker title or something. Stupid little simple stuff like that can get people back in the game. It's sad, but it's true. Yeah, that was number 3. New content is number 3. Number 2, in-game issues. In-game issues to me are any issues in a match that involve gameplay. This can be things like balance or character bugs. Things like, I don't know, weird random Cyclopses running around the map. I have a short of that. You can check it out on my channel. Or, I don't know, switching from Ash to Mozu, and for some reason still having all of Ash's abilities. I have another short of that on my channel. You should check it out. But yeah, in-game issues I think are number 2, and here's why they beat new content. Here's why they beat all this other stuff. The game experience is so huge. Once people get into a game, they need to have a good experience. That's what's going to get them addicted. That's what's going to bring them back time and time again. And I'm not saying you need to fix everything. Like, I'm not saying, like, little character balance things do not need to be addressed. You don't need to address why people think Beckett is just a slightly better pick than Charnock. For the most part, Gigantic's balance isn't that bad. It's very good compared to a lot of games. There are a few things out of skew. There are a few characters that probably need some nerfs, but I would say a majority of characters, unless they have some game-breaking glitch that lets their, like T-Mot's thing where she was doing cracked armor on everybody that got burned and all that stuff when the game first came out, or Ash's focus move being messed up. Things like that that have been around, fixing that type of stuff. That makes sense, right? But like, as far as like general balance, that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about fixing in-game problems. I'm talking about things like major character bugs, or I don't know, people leaving the match and you suddenly having 200 ping. I haven't noticed that since they said they fixed it, so hopefully that is gone. But still, getting thrown into and this one is kind of, I don't know whether it actually is an in-game issue, but sometimes other weird shit also seems to lag the game, and I'm not sure what that's about. It'll be playing just fine, seems like I'm on an American server, and then all of a sudden something happens. Sometimes it's people leaving, sometimes it's other shit, and then the game is just jacked up. That type of stuff is the stuff that's going to put a bad taste in people's mouth and not going to come back. If you don't like the gameplay, why would you even want to give it another chance? You can probably fight through bad menus and some of this other stuff, but if the experience that stuff leads to is bad, you're not even going to want to give the game another chance. If the gameplay is good, though, you might be willing to fight through some of that other stuff like many of us are right now. I have 2 honorable mentions before we go on to number 1. The first honorable mention is prioritizing getting these games onto Game Pass or Game Pass-like services. This is something that I think is going to be really important in rebuilding the community and rebuilding the player base going forward, but I don't think it beats anything else on this list. Bringing people back to the game sounds great, but doing that before the game is in a stable state isn't going to mean anything. They're just going to bleed back out again. You have to get this game in a better functioning state before you start bringing people back in. And I kind of think that this isn't completely off the table. We just had a free week on Epic Games. I don't think it's out of the possibility that at some point in the future we either see this game on Game Pass or we see a free version of this game where you can play as maybe a limited number of characters on a rotating roster or something like that. I don't think those things are out of the window just yet. And it is something that I really want to see. But you need to get the game stable, and ideally you need to show new players coming in that there's a reason to stick around, that there might be new content coming out in the future, and that the game actually functions is that's the only way you're going to keep them. So there's no reason for that is why this Game Pass thing gets an honorable mention, because it does not matter until all these other things are fixed. Then you can start rebuilding the population. The second honorable mention is one that I know is going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to rub some people the wrong way. God damn it. Oh, it's private matches. Guys, I hate to say it, but let me start by saying this. I hope from the bottom of my heart that the devs fix private matches. Mainly because it was a promised feature and it should be fixed. For that reason and no other reason, we paid $20 to have private matches. Matchmaking at least kind of works. The gameplay in matchmaking kind of works. But private matches do not work at all. And that is That is unacceptable when you paid $20 to have them, and they should get fixed. Also, we have a thriving, wonderful group of people out there who really are interested in this, and they deserve to have a feature that was promised to them. I do hope they get fixed. Tournaments are also a great way, tournaments and competitive matches are a great way to advertise the game and get people interested in the game. But here's the thing. 99% of those people who get interested because of watching a tournament are never going to play in a tournament or a league. They think it's cool to watch, it gets them interested in the general gameplay, but they are never going to want to play in that type of environment. Most people who play Gigantic, who play any game, just want to hop on after work for a couple of hours and kill some heroes with their friends. They don't want to play in a competitive scene. The closest they want to get is ranked, so that they can get that one tier higher than their friend and show off how much better they are. They want to play in that type of serious environment, but they don't have the time to set aside on a Saturday afternoon to play in a tournament or to dedicate to scrims throughout the week. Most people just don't want to do that. They don't want to deal with that. It's just it's the sad truth. Again, I'm sorry. I know this being an honorable mention is going to piss off a lot of people. A lot of people have spent years in the Gigantic Heaven Discord playing private matches. But I think that's part of why some people in the community right now think that private matches need to be prioritized. They've spent the last 5-6 years in those private matches, playing together, getting very, very sweaty and very, very competitive. And a lot of those people are headlining our competitive community, and that is great. But when you spend all day setting up tournaments, playing scrims and practice matches, when you spend all day getting ready to stream Gigantic or cast for Gigantic, when you're in this competitive circle of Gigantic, I think sometimes it's easy to think this is the top priority, that this is what most Gigantic players want. And the truth is, it's not. Sometimes that group is the loudest in Gigantic, but the fact is, just in any game in general, most people just want to get on after work on a Monday night, before they take their kid to t-ball practice. They want to take a trip with Trip. They just want to play the game. They just want to click matchmaking. They don't want to sit down and scrim 5 nights a week for the tournament this weekend that they have to set time aside for. They don't want to do that stuff. And it sucks, but it's the truth. And it's why I just cannot put private matches on my top 5. Because to me, it is just the lowest priority. Everything on my list is dedicated to the public player, the average Joe, the 99% of people in Gigantic. And again, I'm sorry. I love the competitive community. I love watching competitive Gigantic. I love listening to the Airship Athletes stream. I love the tournaments that I've watched. I love listening to people like North Star talk about the competitive scene. I think it's all fantastic, and I support those people endlessly. But if my list were bigger, this would probably be 6. It would be 6. It's very, very close to making the top 5, but it can't go in my top 5 because of that reason. I have to focus on the things that would be there for a majority of people that are just sitting down to click search for game. Another big thing is, right now, we're required to log into the servers just to play private matches. So even if private matches get fixed, it's not going to matter much if the player count keeps dipping and they just shut down the servers altogether. We need to focus on things that are going to appeal to the broadest number of people so that we can bring the player count back up. And that's public matchmaking. My number 1 priority for the devs is matchmaking. Matchmaking has been a mess since day one, whether it's parties not working right, or clicking search and getting stuck in an infinite searching loop, or getting thrown into games on the wrong servers. There is just a whole load of issues. And the fact is, at this point, it is almost a locked gate sometimes, keeping people from getting to the gameplay experience. And it sucks, and it's terrible, and it needs to be fixed. If you fix matchmaking, if you can get people into the actual games, they can get hooked on the gameplay. Then, maybe, if they get hooked on the gameplay enough, they'd be willing to deal with a few matchmaking issues, or some of the other issues on this list, like UI issues, or the lack of future content. But they're not going to deal with those other issues if they can't even get into a game to get hooked on the game to begin with. This needs to be addressed. It needs to be the #1 top priority. It just needs to be the top priority. I don't think there's any other argument you can make. Matchmaking is how 99% of the player base outside of the competitive community is finding games. And it needs to be a better experience than what it is. People need to be able to get into parties with their friends and find games. They need to be able to find those games quickly. They need to be on servers that actually make sense. I shouldn't be getting thrown into a European or a Chinese server. Why? It's just, this is #1 for me. It is #1 for me. But what is your #1? What do you think is the #1 thing the devs need to focus on going forward? Tell me in the comments below. Check out some of my other videos. Like, subscribe if you made it this far. Thank you for watching. Snappydude, out, y'all. I hope you have a great day. Bye.